content warning for our audience. There is mention of suicide in this episode. If that is not something that you're comfortable with, we understand if you decide to skip and go to the next episode. We'll catch you next time. Lore Together is proud to be part of the Boss Rush Games Network. Feel free to find out more at bossrushgames.com/network. Hi, I'm Safi.
And I'm Mystic.
And this is Lore Together. This is the podcast where a husband and wife team go over all the storytelling, world building, and characters of video games because it's what we like to do together. We lore together.
Yep, and this is episode 86. But before we get into the episode, there's a few things we have to cover.
Okay.
First off, welcome to our newest patron, Delaron.
Hey, Delaron, thanks so much for your support.
If you'd like to be like Delaron and support this podcast,
Be one of the coolest people ever.
you can do that one of two ways. The first is to give us a thumbs up, 5 stars, whatever it is, wherever you are listening, Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff. The other one is through Patreon at patreon.com/loretogether, where you, like Delaron, can pay a per episode pledge to get early access to episodes as well as early access to our Let's Plays for Dragon Age and Skyrim, as well as mini episodes like our recently dropped Bardic Knowledge episode.
We're not going to explain anymore. You're just going to have to look into what we mean by Bardic Knowledge. But what I can say is that it was a hit. People thought it was fun. So...
And if you'd like to contact us, you can do that through Twitter, Instagram, Mastodon, Reddit, and YouTube. Links down in the description. Or through email at loretogether@gmail.com.
And we hope that when you do rate or review us, we've earned the 5 stars. I am so late to actually mentioning that because he mentioned that a minute or two ago.
Yep, it's okay. It's been a day.
I'm doing the Snorlax level of response.
Safi is Internet Explorer.
Oh, does anybody even remember that little meme? What are we? Browsers?
Well, the people who are getting it now are the memes, so it's all good.
Oh, man. Ouch.
So, we're going to start here with warning. In the end, this is not a happy... Please be warned.
Well, now we got that warning out of the way. Oh, my gosh. Well, please don't put me in a bad mood. Too much of a bad mood. Don't make me cry. Please don't make me cry.
So, the game's story is going to end there, but I have about a page of theorizing and figuring out what the story means that I think will make it less dark.
I hope this goes better than Inside.
It will.
Okay, that's all I need right now. So what are we doing, Mystic?
So, you're not going to know the game. I doubt you will. We are going to be covering the game Transistor.
I feel like you mentioned we would do this, but I don't know much about it. So Mystic has in both Steam and GOG a long collection. I say long collection because we scroll through it.
Yeah.
So it's a row that's about 6 games wide, and you scroll through it, and there's a ton of games, dozens of games that we haven't covered yet, and some of which Mystic doesn't even know that well. And he's like,
I don't know most of them that well.
Yeah, we're going to cover all of these at some point. And
yeah.
I look at a title or two here or there, and I'm like, that sounds interesting, and then I proceed to try to forget it as best as I can.
So this is an action RPG / light strategy game?
Light strategy, heavy subject. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Came out in May 2014 from Supergiant Games.
Wow, so it's 9 years old.
Yeah, we will be back to them.
Okay.
Before Transistor, they did Bastion.
I feel like I know that one.
And their most recent game is Hades.
Hades. Everybody loves Hades.
Yeah, I have always been interested in these games. I have no exposure to either of them beyond screenshots, so we'll be back to them.
And Hades is like a dungeon fighting crawler thingy.
I couldn't even tell you that much.
It seems like there's a lot of fighting in different levels, and yeah. Okay, anyway. Sorry.
It was massively successful. As I said, came out in May 2014. By December 2015, it had sold over 1 million copies.
Ooh.
A huge amount of industry accolades and nominations. including a ton of awards for music and sound design, as well as a bunch of gameplay awards.
Okay.
Including, I think, Best Strategy Game from GameTrailers.com, if you remember when Game Trailers was its own unique thing.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to being part of IGN.
IGN, which just swallowed up so many things. Oh, man. Yeah, there was... So when I used to blog, Game Trailers was part of that.
Yeah.
IGN was still part of that, too. Game Facts and... What else?
The funny thing is, all these things still exist.
There's like Game Politics. There was a website.
Okay, I don't know that one.
There's a website devoted to politics and video games.
Getting political.
We're starting early, guys.
So this is a tactical game in some senses. Okay, we have an allotment of time or energy at the top of the screen, and actions like combat or moving take up specific chunks of time. But it's not necessary to play this way. You can freestyle it all you want. There is just the ability to pause and issue commands to your character. Okay. As far as combat goes, we have 4 skill slots at the bottom of the screen, though they can be rearranged, swapped out with other skills that we unlock. Skills can also augment other skills, so tactically there's a lot of play in the system.
Okay, experimentation with how you can basically... Yeah. Okay.
We get most of those skills from dead bodies.
Wow.
It's kind of like a consciousness download.
Wait. Consciousness download from unconscious dead bodies. Lacking consciousness.
Okay, so
dead bodies.
So we're missing some context here. The skills are all in programming syntax.
Okay.
So like the skill breach has parentheses after it, like you might see in code. Breach parentheses. It's like a function call. Okay. All of this to say, the one thing never explicitly said, but I think is very evident in the game, is it is all in a cyberspace matrix-like construct.
Oh, hence why we're using code language signifiers. Okay.
It's certainly a popular fan theory. The game plays very loose with the setting, though, eschewing hard detail for style.
That's fair.
The game takes place almost entirely in the city of Cloudbank, which, to nail home how much of a construct this all is, the city can rapidly evolve and change, and those changes are based on citizen vote.
And Cloudbank already kind of alludes to that when you think of the cloud being something that exists in a digital space.
Yeah. A majority of citizens vote for a bridge appears. Enough people vote for a mild, cloudy day tomorrow, a mild, cloudy day happens.
Interesting. So it's like democratic, creative commune of sorts.
Yeah.
Okay.
And while everything is wholly democratic, it is a simple majority rule system, and minority opinions can be easily sidelined, and some people also intentionally abstain from voting.
Okay.
The city's rapid evolution is partially made possible by The Process, a legion of autonomous and usually unseen robots that would enact all the changes. We'll get into more details as we go through the game and into my interpretation later.
I was going to say, this is sounding a little bit like The Keepers, too.
Jeez. We'll get there when we get to our Mass Effect Let's Play.
Oh, my gosh.
It's coming up soon, couple months. We open the game with a red-headed woman over a man's body, a giant technological-looking blade through his torso. She's wearing a torn stage gown, shortened to mid-thigh.
Whoa.
And a long coat. The dead body is, well, not necessarily missing a coat, but doesn't have a coat on. So it's revealed later that it's the dead body's coat. The weird-looking technological style blade thing is the titular Transistor.
Okay.
And it is what can download those skills and consciousnesses and stuff.
So, but you have to stab it through a body?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, It also talks to the red-haired woman who is known as Red. We don't actually know her real name.
Wow. How original. Oh, my Lord.
The game drops you in right in the middle of the action, so rather than play the waiting game, let's fill in some details now. A few things happened really quickly right before the opening scene. Red and the dead man were attacked. The man lost his life, actually sacrificing himself to save Red. Red also lost her voice in the attack.
Wait, she's a redhead who lost her voice, and she's learning how to use tools. She's taking things off of presumably dead bodies. So it's the Little Mermaid so far. It is a violent Little Mermaid.
Both the man and her voice are now within the transistor.
Okay.
Red, the transistor, and the man's body are all transported out of where they were attacked to end up where we find them.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So Red takes the transistor, which speaks to her in a voice I believe is the man, known officially as Subject Unknown, also called Mr. Nobody by the fans. Fan theories claim Mr. Nobody is Red's bodyguard, possibly lover, maybe. I've seen that. I've also seen one fan argue Red is a lesbian, another argue that she's bi. Their relationship is kind of cloudy, but not really.
But it suggested that they had a relationship prior to the beginning of the game.
They have some relationship, whether that is lovers, close friends, family. We don't quite know, because as much as we know about Red, we know very little about Subject Unknown.
Okay.
As for the bodyguard aspect, though, that makes some sense. She is something of a celebrity. She is a singer who is popular in Cloudbank. Top 10% of all votes, everything.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. That said, it's not her voice they were after, but her life. As I said, he jumped in the way. Mr. Nobody's data is integrated into the transistor when he gets hit by the transistor.
Yeah.
Which becomes the function breach.
Okay.
Which is kind of akin to a projectile attack. I'm not going to go through all the gameplay stuff. But Red's voice becomes the attack crash, which is a close-up attack and can disrupt targets, maybe because it's her voice.
Right, exactly. So, okay. Like a dissonance sort of situation.
Yeah, but I'm not going to break down all the skills. We'd be here forever. We clearly get roped into battle against enemies that pop into existence and get some quick learning on how the combat works. These enemies are also the process, and in theory are being directed by the Camerata, though that's up for debate.
The capybara? What?
The Camerata. We'll get to the Camerata eventually. For now, just know they're the bad guys.
Okay, Camerata.
Yeah, they are controlling the process, but not really. It gets murky.
Should they be controlling the process? Is it built that the process is run by the Camerata?
No, I don't. I think that they think they control the process.
But so they're under the. Okay.
I think we'll get there.
Okay.
Red and the Transistor, in tow, head off and traverse the Goldwalk district, the canals, the promenade, and the empty set, which is where Red was performing before being transported away.
Okay, so she has to walk all the way over to there after she kills these dudes?
While killing things along the way and uncovering new skills, finding dead people. We'll get to a few of them. I'm not going to go through all of them because there's like 10 of them.
Wow.
So, yeah, we're, in fact, on the way to the empty set, she uncovers a few bodies, gets some of these skills. And
is it assumed that these individuals were killed by the process?
You can assume that, yes.
Okay.
The process or the Camerata, one of the two.
Okay.
And we're not going to touch on all of them, and we're not going to touch on all of them, and we're not going to go in any order. Well, we're going in a mild order, but not gameplay order. Red and Mr. Nobody aside, there are 10 citizens. Aside from the Camerata, they also count. So there's 14, quote, named people, like main characters in this game. It's too much. I can't do them all. So we'll start with Lillian Platt, 33, female. Mm-hmm. One of the smartest people in all of Cloudbank.
Okay.
She oversaw the growth of OVC terminals, which is kind of where they go to vote and get news and stuff like that, and an increase in signal strength throughout the city, basically like boosting signal, making sure it gets everywhere. She left her post, with sources close to her claiming it was in relation to the disappearance of fashion mogul and close friend Maximilius Darcy.
Okay.
Her scientific mind also allowed her to see patterns. It's implied that she was able to discern the process at some level.
Oh, okay.
She has been missing for 2 weeks, only to be found dead the same night Red is attacked.
Interesting. Now I'm getting a lot of Paradise Killer vibes right now.
Different art style, but it's kind of cool. All the art in this game is hand-painted.
Ooh, I like it.
And the characters definitely have a stylized look to them.
Remember when that was a big deal when Okami came out?
Yeah.
Yes. So of course, that's the first image that comes to my mind because that was revolutionary when it came out. But I imagine this is a different kind of hand-painted thing.
Maximilius Darcy, 31, male. The fashion mogul, I just mentioned, had an addiction problem, which was a very big problem for him, but it also fueled his creativity.
Oh, wow.
When he weaned himself off of the substances, his career took a drastic dip.
Yeah, I've heard of things like that happening, that a lot of times some of the things most harmful to you actually are what fuel your inspiration.
So,
unfortunately.
And it's funny. Everything is done by percentages. So there was something like 64% of people between age blah and blah have either wanted a Maximilius Darcy piece of clothing or have commented on somebody wearing one. It's just everything is percentage based in terms of the populace and
the
feedback.
Worst version of marketing research ever. Ugh.
He started back up on the whatever he was on before getting an offer to take part in an experiment that would cure him without him losing his edge. He took up the offer and disappeared.
Just disappeared.
Keep in mind, we find most of these people dead.
Well, we haven't found him dead yet, have we?
We have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're not covering all the where we find them and stuff. Yeah.
But, so we're just going through the list of people who are dead and the circumstances as to what brought them to this point of being dead on the ground. Okay.
Bailey Jalande, 32, X. Possibly trans or non-binary, uses she, her pronouns.
Okay.
Obsessed with the past, she eventually became head of the city archives and was instrumental in the democratic voting process. She was able to provide historical context and reference to the voting public whenever a new civic initiative was proposed. She was eventually invited to a banquet to honor those who had made the most contribution to CloudBank, only to find herself the only guest of honor at an event that was not a banquet. Bailey was never heard from again.
Wait, how do we know that part?
So when we're told, I'm condensing 3 different passages, we're kind of told the general gist of a character, kind of one unique thing, one unique event about them.
Okay.
And then the Camerata or the Transistor's version of things, because we're reading their trace, we're reading their consciousness, etc., quote unquote.
Okay.
So the Transistor has more information about them than is publicly available.
Okay.
Yeah. Neola Cheen, I think. Chein? Chien?
Is that supposed to be French?
I don't know.
If it's French, chien.
I'll let you do that then.
That's me assuming it's French. What was it? CH what?
Chein.
Chien. You know what? I might not even.
I'll call her
right.
Neola.
Yeah, there we go.
I have written down 43. I think it's supposed to be 34. That's my bad.
Everybody seems to be in their early 30s right
I think
now.
that's why I had that thought too. So that's why I think I'm wrong. I think it's a typo.
Yeah, I was going to say there's not a lot of variation in age. It's almost.
I think there might be a reason for that.
Okay.
Yeah. Female, an activist for the Goldwalk neighborhood. She worked tirelessly passing ordinances to improve undeveloped regions, reaching out to and educating habitual non-voters, and advocating for groups lacking adequate representation. Her plan to open a gallery to show eclectic, offbeat work found herself accused of stirring unrest and calling attention to meritless perspectives undeserving of notice.
You guys did not see the air quotes that Mystic just threw up right there.
After a confrontation with an angry mob that had been hoping for a metro station and not a gallery, she disappeared soon after.
Interesting. Okay.
There's plenty more. Eventually, Red and Unknown in the Transistor get to Empty Set to find the first of the Camerata, Sybil Reyes. R-E-I-S-Z, Reyes.
R-E-I-S.
Or Rees.
Rees. I don't know.
Sybil Rees. She's a bit of a social elite. She organized many of the city's popular public events, from groundbreaking ceremonies to contemporary festivals.
Okay.
She was everywhere and yet somehow made time to lead a second, hidden life. As one of the Camerata, Miss Reyes was responsible for gathering information about potential high-value targets, people who could contribute to their cause.
Okay.
She did this job to perfection, drawing no notice, though one target in particular caused her much frustration. According to Sybil's file, she likely told the rest of the Camerata they would find Red alone, but she herself was hoping they would get rid of Red's companion in their ambush attempt. Somehow, when Red's companion was downloading the transistor, his personality took it over.
Oh, okay.
A fight with Sybil ensues. Being almost entirely processed, Sybil makes powerful attacks with her parasol and has 3 lives chances.
Okay.
Returning each time with greater health before she is completely defeated. She is completely unhinged. Her dialogue during the fights is rambly and mad and repetitive.
So she's passionate about something that we can't quite comprehend.
We can comprehend. She almost certainly has an unrequited love for Red.
Okay, that's unfortunate.
Yeah. Once absorbed into the transistor, she tells Red where to find 2 of the remaining members of the Camerata. Red also gains access to the sandbox, which is Sybil's private space, where there's like tests that you can run through. Also, there's a hammock and a radio playing Red songs.
This is kind of reminding me of the book that you encouraged me to read, Mystic Locked In by John
Scalzi.
John Scalzi. Yeah. So, and it's about people who are afflicted with a disease that has them locked into their own brain, but there's a lot of technology to help them have their own space.
Oh, you think this is the Agora?
Yeah, the Agora, where it's this idea of this digital space that they can call their own as home because they're so used to being in their own head. And they interact neurally differently with the world. It's almost kind of like being like neurodivergent forced by disease almost.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting. Everybody has like a different way of how they do it. The main character in the story kind of bases off some really cool caves he saw as a kid on vacation. He visits another person's place that's kind of like a arcade hacker situation, and then visits another person where it feels really tight and confining, and she likes to say, people find it very restrictive, but I find it comforting. They say it reminds them of the feeling of the womb. And I was getting such strong vibes of the artist Lebowski from The Big Lebowski, if anybody knows what I'm talking about. I was reading that and I was like, and this is late into the story, and you want to take this woman seriously because she is a serious part of the plot, and there's part of you that's just like, oh my gosh, does she do flyover splatter art?
So
Sorry.
So Red and the Transistor continue through high-rise past admin centers and eventually to Bracket Towers, where those 2 other members of the Camerata are located. On the way, they encounter the Spine of the World, which was apparently a landmark of Cloudbank, but now takes the form of a huge processed creature.
Whoa.
It affects the Transistor a great deal. Although Red's combat abilities are unhindered, the Transistor's speech becomes slurred and dazed, almost like it's a drunken state.
Mm-hmm.
The circle near the hilt grows brighter red and sparks continually. The Transistor remains in this state, and Red suffers surprise attacks from the Spine's tail, basically this invincible, spiky thing, until Red can get inside the giant creature, which I think at one point is described as like gooey, and destroy its heart.
Well, that sounds like...
It's a weird scene.
We're talking about a lot of digital stuff, but it feels like a physical manifestation of there's something wrong with the OS, and we need to fix it so that way the spine of the world can support everything else.
After defeating the Spine, Red and the Transistor are able to continue on to Bracket Towers. Asher Kendrill communicates with Red via corrupted OVC terminals. He claims that Grant and himself have walled themselves in to keep the process out. Asher, 28, male, and Grant, 55, male, are a married gay couple and were both in the Camerata. Grant is a city administrator. Asher is an editor for the OVC.
Okay.
Grant was in the Camerata first and drew Asher into it, both finding the Camerata's ideals and motives to be worthy. That said, Asher seems remorseful for what has happened to Cloudbank. The Transistor doesn't quite believe his guilt is real until he attempts to get a message out to Cloudbank via OVC, naming all the members of the Camerata and claiming responsibility for the process infestation in the city, which is why neighborhoods have started to go dark.
Oh, no. So it's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Red has to jump through a bunch of hoops in order to unlock the door to access the Kendril Sanctuary on the roof.
Literal hoops?
No.
Okay.
Upon entering, she discovers they have both unalived themselves.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, Grant was unable to cope with losing the Transistor and the destruction of Cloudbank, and Asher was unwilling to continue without Grant. We do get a bit of the beliefs of the citizens somewhat, with Asher saying to Red, "See you in the country." This isn't the first time we've heard "in the country" in regards to the disappeared and dead. There has been numerous, like some of those people I talked about, when they disappeared, some people said they were just on a trip in the country.
Right. As if it's a euphemism for...
Yeah. But potentially not. Maybe it's just this juxtaposition of, it's a supposition that it's the supposed afterlife to this idea of the country juxtaposed to the more urban city they live in, you know? So maybe the country is both real and, real in this world and also the afterlife.
Well, it just also makes me think of the idea of the lie that you tell, or at least some families do this when they will take their dog to be euthanized, and they use the euphemism, we took him to a nice farm.
Oh, yeah.
And we took him out to the country in a nice farm, and he's living the rest of his doggy days there. And kids will accept the fact that that's where they're supposedly accept the fact where they're supposed to go.
Yeah.
But you kind of...
Kids are smarter than people think, I think.
Yeah, and kids kind of understand that you're kind of avoiding the topic of death. So, you shouldn't do that. Anyway, it's interesting that they choose to call it the country, and it turns out a lot of these people are now deceased one way or another.
It's like The Island. Remember that movie?
Oh, I have intentionally avoided watching that. Intentionally.
Gathering their trace data points, Red and the Transistor move on to the last remaining member of the Camerata, Royce Brackett.
What's his name?
Royce Brackett.
Royce. I hate that name, Royce.
Sorry to any Royces listening.
It's just, I think Rolls-Royce has ruined it for me.
Fair.
And it also sounds too much like Rice or Bryce or all those other, ice names.
Red must essentially backtrack to the Fairview district where Royce is waiting.
Okay.
They ride a process swarm back to the empty set, which has been processed significantly since they were last there.
So wait, so how do we know if something's been processed significantly? How does it look in this world?
Blank.
Okay.
Blank cubes.
Sterile?
Everywhere. Yeah, sterile. Okay. White cubes everywhere, I think.
It feels like a lot of things have lost their
I have
skins
played
and
it. I have played this.
I
haven't beaten it yet. So I did watch a Let's Play of it, but I was kind of also writing at the same time. So
fair. Fair.
Back through Goldwalk from the empty set, and again, everything's heavily processed, because this is what I mean when stuff is disappearing.
Yeah.
Like it's being reset to basics. Red is able to construct a bridge to Fairview using just a transistor.
Oh.
Up until now, she's only used it as a weapon. Able to change Cloudbank at her own whim is kind of a new thing. So Fairview has been processed completely. Royce communicates to Red and the transistor by robot proxy, offering a truce so that they can be rid of the process completely.
So they're trying to eradicate the process?
Now they are.
Oh. But originally they were trying to control the process?
Yeah. That's my read on it.
Okay. I think that's where I'm confused, is the process was supposedly under control by the Cameroons.
The Camerata.
The Camerata. I'm sorry. I keep it's one of those things that easily mixes in my head for something else.
Yeah. The Camarilla.
The Camarilla, the Capybaras? Because
Yeah.
I've been watching a lot of those memes.
Red must take the transistor to the cradle where it can affect and change the city to the fullest. Royce warns that they do not have much time before the process finds them. The transistor is activated and both Red and Royce are pulled into the sword. Once inside the transistor, Royce is armed with a transistor of his own. Basically, there's supposed to be only one. Now there's two, but they're inside the actual sword. So
it's like it's another layer.
yeah.
Huh.
Like I said, kind of Matrixy.
It's kind of like this is the backup server.
He tells Red that only one of them can leave in order to change Cloudbank back to how it was, using the transistor as one would a brush on a canvas. He then apologizes and then begins to fight her using the same turn-based system Red has been using the whole time.
Oh. Interesting. So
No,
wait, is the
it's
player fighting as Royce or
No.
fighting? Okay, so the Red is being attacked.
Yeah.
Okay.
After defeating Royce, Red returns to Cloudbank. She returns to the starting point of the game, to the body of the man we saw at the beginning, the one who had been narrating the whole game from within the sword. He asks excitedly what district Red plans to repair first, but she has other ideas. She gives the transistor a final embrace before setting it down on the ground in front of the man. She sits down, wraps the man's arms around her shoulders, and despite the sword's pleadings, stabs herself with it.
Whoa.
And then we get a bit of a legacy aftermath.
Okay.
Red, 27, mourned as process toll climbs. Vigil held for popular musician after she vanished in the week's catastrophic outbreak. One of Cloudbank's most influential voices has gone silent amid the process epidemic spreading through the city unchecked. While Red is but one of thousands of disappearances this week, thousands more gathered to honor her life and her music on the eastern perimeter as the sound of her voice cut through the darkness. And that's kind of where we end. Now, that all being said, there are theories about what all this means.
Yeah.
And here's, in one line, obviously can break it down more, but in one line, I think Transistor is an analogy for a dying MMORPG.
I like that one. Because I was like...
Or some other always online social game.
Yes, I really like that one.
Because there's some things I haven't told you yet. When a person joins Cloudbank, or is born there, however the world defines it, they are prompted to make two selections. These selections are not unlike character creation seen in RPGs. Red has music and linguistics. Maximilius has design and aesthetics. Neola has politics and empathy. Sybil has supervision and organization.
Oh,
so these are skills or attributes.
So it's kind of like... So this immediately makes me think of Guild Wars, where you choose, where especially in the first Guild Wars, you start with one specialty, but then you add another, and how the two marry with each other is kind of how you specialize your character.
So these selections, alongside the player's unique play style and form of playing, creates their trace, their link to the world of Cloudbank. It's kind of like their unique avatar. The weird one here is Mr. Nobody, Red's friend/lover who has no selections, no skills, and no data in the game. Still trying to parse that one out. My current gut feeling? Free guest pass into the game. It's a limited account. That's why he's just a voice.
Or maybe it's one of those dummy accounts that a lot of programmers use to just get through, and it's somebody who's been let go because the team is getting shorted because the game's dying.
The transistor itself is GM powers in an MMO, or root access to the server, able to wield power or use tools and mods like people have for online games. Like when I play Guild Wars 2, I know there are people who have mods or third-party plugins that make it easier to quickly switch mounts. Like there's whole UI mods for that game.
Yeah.
This kind of gets us to the goals of the Camerata in a weird way, though. The city of Cloudbank is an autonomous world,
Okay.
There's no longer a single driving force behind the city because everything is done by the voting system amongst the whole populace. Unfortunately, these continuous petitions created mediocrity through the majority and prevented any real interesting change.
Yeah, that's something that you find a lot actually in these failed metaverses.
Yeah. As Mr. Nobody remarks, the weather is always mild and unoffensive. The staleness is what the Camerata hope to overcome. It's kind of like an old players guild or something that wants to see the game changed in a new, interesting way.
Yeah.
Their first step is to take control away from the other citizens, basically take away all the voice they have, and wield this transistor, this backdoor code to change the game.
Right.
You know? Using the style and ideas of some of the biggest names who aren't there anymore, you know. The Camerata's plan falls apart once Grant loses control over the transistor and the custodians. The process is left without direction. Now, the process is kind of like the software of the world in the background. And up until now, the populace has given purpose to the process, and without it, they interpret the void of information they're getting as a desire for nothing and start wiping things out.
Oh, interesting.
So basically, wipe it to a blank slate. Hope that gives us more direction.
So it's almost like misunderstanding how the code works to a point where you think you're going to be adding more to the code, but it actually you've confused it to reroute all of these decisions, because everything now has been built on the player decisions, rather than creative input. And then it's like, well, if nobody's deciding anything on this, then that's what they want, is nothing. If there's zero input, then zero will be the output.
Yeah. And as Red plows through the process, basically running through whatever is the manifestation of these things, it becomes obsessed with her because it's like the only change, it's the only stimulus input.
Right.
You know? So as Cloudbank becomes this shapeless, sterile world, its users leave. You know, a social game dies as the big names move on. They log off, go to the country. You know, there is no return to Cloudbank. It is directly said that logging off, even in ideal circumstances, is a one-way trip. But now there's no point in returning anyway.
Going out to the country is literally going outside and touching grass. That's so crazy.
Millions of people who made the simulation feel real are now gone and to never return. So when Red gains complete control of Cloudbank and gains root status, there's nothing left for her to actually do. So she just logs off.
Right. Yeah. Like, okay, it's now just for me. I guess I could make a whole place just for myself, but...
That's my... Okay, obviously this is an interpretation. And I'm cribbing a lot from a Reddit conversation on this one. But it made so much sense to me. I'm like, yeah.
I like that interpretation. But I can definitely see, considering we're talking about just the idea of a digital process in general, that this could probably be interpreted to a lot of different things.
It's
the idea that it's related to something though that involves user input, I think is critical, because the idea that these people are found dead but you still have their information is like, are they dead, or have they just not logged on, or have they not participated in it?
It's almost like the stories you're hearing are the tales from their guildmates or their friends who are like, yeah, she hasn't logged on in 7 years, but last time we saw her, we were part of this huge quest and everything.
Okay. The only other thing that I think makes sense to me now that we're talking about this is a failed cryptocurrency startup.
This was this before that time? I think this might have been before crypto was a thing.
So it came out in 2014?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. How long has Bitcoin been around?
That's fair.
Like,
I don't know.
Like, Bitcoin's been more stable because it was one of the first.
Yeah, that's
true.
I've never actually looked into anything crypto, so I couldn't tell you.
Should I dangerous? You know what? That should be a side episode, is the opinions on cryptocurrency, because it's kind of a game in itself, but I'm not going to get into it. I'll cite.
We'll be
some
here
sources.
for 30 minutes.
I'll cite some sources in the future and talk about it. But
in a Patreon episode, okay.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it. But cryptocurrency in general, a lot of times to help build legitimacy, is linked to a lot of digital assets or digital games, digital potential.
I'm fully aware of NFTs in the gaming sphere.
Yeah,
like
NFTs
that I
general,
know about.
And there's that, and everybody, and I shouldn't say everybody, there is a certain type of weird investment entrepreneur who's really trying to make these things viable, sustainable investments. But there's, again, this is going to have to be, I'm going to do a short little essay about my issues with cryptocurrency as a Patreon exclusive, because we're not going to steal this story away from.
No, but I can kind of see where you're going, actually, because back before crypto was a thing, you did have these MMOs that were real economies.
Yes.
And they would have, you could buy an island for 60,000 real dollars and then recoup it all because people were paying you money to go to your virtual island in the game.
Second Life is actually a really good early example of this. There were people for a long time who could have real life pay their mortgage careers by designing and doing things in Second Life. And I know Second Life's not the first place to do it, but I do remember there's actually, I'd have to find the documentary that talks about this, but Second Life had a boom and then it had a huge bust. It literally, there's a documentary that talks about this, and I felt sorry for this woman who basically, she made a whole career out of doing essentially digital fashion, and she's highlighted in this documentary as essentially like she was living big, and then it crashed so hard. But you're right, it's been a thing that's been around for a while.
The one I knew about was I just looked up really quickly while you were talking, I was listening, was Entropia Universe.
I do not know this one.
That was from 2003, I believe, was when it first came out, and that was like one of those real economy MMOs type things. So yeah, that, MMOs die all the time. So yeah.
And here's the thing, I think I remember when Guild Wars 2 came out, like one of the big things is like, we hired an economist because we have two different markets of like our gold and our gems. Yeah. And we want to monitor them, and we want to use actual economic tools to regulate it so it's fair for all of our players. And, we're not going to have some wild and free market that'll be unfun for the majority of people who can afford it.
So yeah, that's my interpretation of Transistor, is it's
a
failing MMO.
I do like that. So what were some of the other theories that you came upon while you were looking into this?
Most of them just seem to say that it's actually like a Matrix type thing.
The Matrix itself.
Yeah, where so people, like the people dying are actually dying, but it's it's just a Matrix ripoff basically. I like this because it makes it more about gaming. It's kind of like more tongue in cheek.
I feel like it should be more that, like the idea that it's people living in a Matrix just feels a little too on the nose. Yeah. A little too Brechtian, if you ask me. Unless you're doing something like there's that episode of Black Mirror called like San Junipero or something. I forget what it's called. Where people will literally upload their consciousness to live in an afterlife on a server. Okay. And I could see something like that where,
maybe,
and it could be just by choice. There comes a point where your consciousness is like, actually, I'm out.
Done. Yeah.
I'm out. And everybody was uploaded to the server around the same time, and that's why they're all kind of like dying off at the same time. They're at the age they wanted to be at in this afterlife, and they're now realizing that like it doesn't matter what it comes to. Like they've tried to make it interesting, they've tried to make it consistent, but the thing that's causing everything to fail is the limitations of their own understanding of being.
Here's the one sticking point.
Okay.
Is we know that the Camerata has actively gone after people. And one interpretation of that would be that you can't log off.
What do you mean?
Like the people in the sword
yeah,
are stuck online, but like in their own little sphere, their own little reality outside of Cloudbank,
Okay.
I don't know. It's a weird one. Again, they play very loose with the world because it's more style over detail.
And this is me spouting something just from you giving your synopsis and your theory on it. Whereas when I play it, maybe I'll feel about it differently. I'll get a better sense of the aesthetic and the themes. Again,
this is just my read. If I miss something or if something if you don't feel the same way, by all means, let us know. We have our Discord on the Boss Rush Network Discord.
Yeah.
Sorry, we have our channel on the Boss Rush Network Discord.
It's not, we don't own the full Discord because neither one of us have time, but because we're members of the Boss Rush Network, we have a channel on there.
And you have all of our contact stuff down below as well.
Yeah. Please feel free to let us know what you think it is. This is a lot of thinking, and now apparently I have to now do like a side episode about cryptocurrency.
On top of that side episode about being Dragonborn.
Oh, dude, I
just reminded Safi of a long promised episode she wanted to do.
I want to do it, and it's. I've been staring at that book forever, but I think it's just like, I keep thinking like I need to do the full book. I don't think I need to do a full book. I think I want to do the one essay that I want to be like, hey, now, this feels a little out of place. And then look and see if there's anything else I want to respond to. Because at first I wanted to analyze the full book, and then I ran out of time, and then it felt like I had to do it. I felt obligated. So.
Anyway, things for our patrons to look forward to. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
Don't forget to check out our live streams. We're going to have the one after this episode goes live is going to be Transistor.
And that'll be the Thursday after this episode is released. And alternate Thursdays, we are finishing up. We've been saying that for months now, but it's true. We've been doing it for over a year, and we are finishing up the Skies of Arcadia Let's Play with our goofy voice acting. Come for the bad voice acting, stay for the side conversations about Rivet and Firmament that end up happening. Oh, man. And thanks everybody who joins us on those live streams. That's been like the highlights of my week. It's been so fun to do. But I guess, Bistic, if that's it.
That's it.
All right. Well,
thank you.
Thanks so much. Catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.